Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the late hour. If you're on the live stream, my fault. I screwed us up today. I'm a little late, running around,
God
doing all
damn it.
kinds of stuff. I know.
Always. You never hear this show start off with Travis was running late.
You don't. You also don't hear the show start off with, well, that was a technically sound start. But as far as... Go ahead.
Welcome to Cinema Royale. I am Travis Hobson. That's John Nolan. We are the Punch Drunk Critics. Thank you for tuning in. And whether you're listening to us live or you're listening to us on podcast, which frankly, most of you probably are listening to us on podcast. Thank you to those of you who do. What are we talking about on this week's show? Before we get that far, before we start, we are film critics in the DC area at punchdrunkcritics.com, where you can find us every day. And you can find us in a bunch of different places too. Just look up John Nolan Film Critic or Travis Hobson Film Critic. That's the easy way to do it, right? Rather than listing off a bunch of places that we're at. So just do that. But what are we talking about on this week's show, man?
Oh, we got a lot. Nothing comes out.
Right?
Yeah, nothing comes out. But things were released. A little thing. I think it's off Broadway. Something called Hamilton. They put that on Disney Plus. So there's that. There's the Outpost, Scott Eastwood, Orlando Bloom movie.
Rod Lurie's film.
You know what I watched last night, and I am extremely late to the game on this. I thought it was a new movie when I saw it on Netflix, but it apparently was released in 2014. Cut Bank. Do you remember that movie? Have you seen it? Liam Hemsworth?
Unfortunately, yeah. Is that the one with Liam Hemsworth?
Yeah. It wasn't. I mean, it was very Coen Brothers like, but it wasn't very good. I don't know. It was all right. Let's be honest. But I had been hearing.
We might have a review of that somewhere on the site too.
I'm sure we do. But I guess it just hit Netflix. And I got like 3 or 4 people literally since it hit Netflix telling me, "Oh, have you seen this movie? It's awesome. It's amazing. You should watch it."
Bank?
Yeah. Okay. So I watched it last night.
Okay.
It was fine. It was fine. It was pretty good. But it was very Coen Brothers without the Coen Brothers, I guess you could say.
I watched a couple movies last night too. I watched 2 movies last night, and technically I'm not supposed to talk about either one of them, but so I won't go too far. But I watched 2 movies, and you know what's great about watching these 2 movies that I watched them both, and total combined, it wasn't 3 hours. It was perfect.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
2 movies under 3 hours. I was like, wow, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
But I watched Palm Springs with Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti and Jake Easton. Film that was the one that was the highest selling film at Sundance this year. I think 17 million, something insane. And it was like the big movie at Sundance this year, and it was, like I said, I can't talk too much about it, but man, I can't wait for people to watch it.
See, usually with people, when somebody says something like that, you're like, oh, they loved it. But let me tell you, folks, with him, you can't tell.
Now,
can't tell.
Now contrast it with this. The other movie I watched was Money Plane.
Money Plane, okay.
Starring Adam Edge, Copeland from WWE. You look really weird right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to fix my camera. It's not working.
I'm hoping that when I go and I grab the screen stills from this show,
that is one of those.
That's the image that it gives me.
For all you aspiring podcasters out there, let me tell you something.
You thought you hated that other picture of you? That one is a million times worse.
For all of you aspiring podcasters, invest in a camera stand. Don't use the one that comes with it. Invest in a camera stand. I'm telling you.
I hope that is what it gives me. It sends me back.
It will be. It's my luck.
Most likely it will. The other movie I watched was Money Plane with, like I said, Adam Edge Copeland for WWE, and who's the only other? Thomas Jane is in it.
He's still alive?
Thomas Jane's fine. Kelsey Grammer.
Okay.
And all 3 Lawrence brothers. Joey Lawrence. Joey Lawrence.
Okay.
Joey Lawrence. Andrew Lawrence. and Matthew Lawrence. All three of them are in the movie, and I think Andrew Lawrence co-wrote it.
There's so many questions I have right
You know
now.
what? I can't wait for people to see that one.
Okay, I do see the difference there. I do see the difference between the two. I have so many questions. Number one, when did because I'm guessing this is an action movie, right?
Money Plane?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That's what they want it to be. When did Fraser Crane become an action hero? Like he was in Expendables, and then
Expendables. But look at the roles he's taken in these movies, and even in Money Plane, he's not playing an action hero.
No, he's the advisor, but
he's playing a guy in the background who's either, like you said, like an advisor or a general, or in this case, like kind of like the bad guy. You know, so, and I don't know where he suddenly made the transition from Fraser Crane, astute Fraser Crane, to being a guy who snarls dialogue at people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he does now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
that's all he does in this movie. In fact, the embargo for this movie is up tomorrow, so I actually got to write it tonight, and I'll be up in the morning.
But so keep an eye out for that.
Money Plane is something else, man. It is something else.
Like on the list of Hollywood fame.
Something else.
On the list of Hollywood power family, I gotta imagine that the Lawrence brothers fall somewhere around not on the list. I gotta imagine.
They're sub Baldwin, obviously. Now the Baldwins, at least they can say we got Alec.
Yeah, they got Alec. They got an MVP on the team.
Right, and the Hemsworths can say we got Chris and Luke. Chris and I don't even know which one is higher in the pecking order, Luke or Liam. They both suck.
Yeah.
But at least they can say they got Chris.
Yeah.
That you can make that call for out of the Lawrence boys. I guess Matthew would be like the high water mark, which is pretty sad. But
yeah.
The funny thing about them and clearly Andrew did co-write it because the Lawrences all have really flashy roles in the movie.
Of course.
Like, and I didn't realize that at first. I was watching it and I was like, man, this guy looks familiar. And then I was like, man, that guy looks really familiar. I was like, and he looks like the other guy. And I'm like, and then the credits came up and I was like, all three Lawrences are in this.
Yeah. And this is even talking about Edge, who's also in the movie.
He's talking about Edge.
Is this his first film role?
Oh no, Edge has been working a lot. He was on The Flash. He played a villain in The Flash.
Oh, okay.
He was in a Highlander movie years ago. I don't know if it was In-Game or he was in one of the Highlander movies. He was on a full season or two of Vikings.
Oh wow! Yeah, he looks like he's fitting that.
He's had other movie roles too. But yeah, he's had plenty of roles. This one's Money Plane.
I'll tell you what, they must know the audience poll that the Lawrence brothers have, because I challenge you, dear listeners, go to Google and search Money Plane movie stills. There is not a single still with a single Lawrence brother in it on the first 2 pages of Google. Because I wanted to see what they look like these days.
I posted the trailer for this movie weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
I've paid attention to Money Plane. I did not know that they were in it. The only people I knew were in it were Edge, Thomas Jane, and Kelsey Grammer. I didn't know anybody else was in it. There's a really hot chick in it too that plays like one of Edge's cohorts in the movie. She's pretty fine and she's a badass.
You know, looking at these stills, I don't know why I doubted Edge. He's got a really, really unique look. I'm surprised he doesn't do more stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's kept pretty busy. I mean, he retired from WWE 10 years ago, and he's been working pretty steady. He's kind of back in WWE now, but actually just got injured again, so he might be out again. But yeah, he's been working pretty steady since he retired. He's not a bad actor for the most part. I wouldn't go and say that Money Plane is high end for him, but he's out there.
He's in film.
He's making movies. He's working.
Yep. Well, I guess on the list of things that did come out this week, I mean, I guess we have to start by talking about Hamilton, right?
We should probably talk about Hamilton.
Did you see the stage show version?
I didn't. I mean, I watched a bootleg copy of the stage version of Hamilton, which is obviously not the same. but I mean, yeah, Hamilton. This is like the event of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton coming out, and look, people have been really cynical about it, and I don't blame them. Did Disney take advantage of this moment in time when racial tensions are high and people are looking for content about the Black experience? Did they take advantage of this moment to, uh, the movie was gonna come out next year in theaters,
Mm-hmm.
and they decided to move it up a year and put it on Disney Plus. Did they take advantage of this moment to do that? Absolutely. Did they end the Disney Plus reduced pricing like days before Hamilton came out? Yes, they did. Did they do all this because they knew that this was like the one thing other than like a unique Marvel movie or a unique Star Wars movie coming out on Disney Plus that would bring in buku subscribers? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they did, and they did it, and they were smart to do it. If I were a business person, I would have done that shit too. And I'm sure every single person on my Facebook list was watching Hamilton on Friday, and I don't mean like a few of them. I mean like everyone.
Oh yeah.
People who had seen it already in theater and on stage, and people who had never seen it before. Everyone was watching it. Everyone was talking about it, and I'm sure there's probably a billion people watching it right now, or if I probably already watched it 3 or 4 times. Um, and look, like I said, I seen a bootleg copy, so I knew some to some degree what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But man, nothing quite prepares you for it. It is a really amazing show, and I feel weird talking about how the show was because I mean, frankly, we already know the show is great, whether we had seen it already or not. And the show is great.
Right.
Uh, like I said, Disney was taking advantage of this moment to show uh, to put on a show that takes U.S. history and filters it through the experiences of people of color, making you know American history something that can be embraced by everybody. Because let's be honest, U.S. history has not been written by us. It has not been
Yeah.
written for us. It has been written by white men and always been favored to white men. So to put the founding fathers played by people of color, nothing quite prepares you for it. It's interesting. You don't think it's going to be powerful, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the stage show, the performances themselves are fantastic. I'm a really big fan of Christopher Jackson, who plays George Washington. It's great.
Yeah.
Um, and I really love the couple appearances by Jonathan Groff as
Mm-hmm.
the king is just amazing. His two songs, "You'll Be Back," or both times are just fantastic.
Yeah.
The show is extremely powerful. Lin-Manuel Miranda's a genius. I give it up to him. I'm pretty, you know, pretty whatever when it comes to stage shows. Like I go, but I don't have this adoration for them like a lot of other people do. But Hamilton is one that really blew me away, and I can see why there's been so much talk about it all this time. And now all those people who went to the show and put pictures of their playbill on their Facebook page, well, they don't seem so special anymore.
Right.
Everybody's seen it now.
It's here for the masses.
And we didn't have to pay $1 billion to go see it.
That's
To sit behind a pillar or sit up in the cheap seats.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to do that. We got it for $7 a month or whatever it was. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, now see, you say we knew the story was great, and that's absolutely true. But the translation is what surprised me because I am one of those people that loves. I don't go nearly as much as I'd like, and honestly, probably haven't been in 3 or 4 years. But I've always loved live theater. There's really nothing like it, if you ask me. And there is really something to being there and being a part of it. Obviously, you're not part of the story, but you're there and it's unfolding in front of you, and it's one of those things.
The uniqueness of being at a live show, because one of the things that I like about them when I do go,
Mm-hmm.
No shows like you can go see a show 5 times during the week, see the same show. It might be a little bit different each show.
You'll never see the same show. Yeah.
Never see the same show.
I mean, my first live, like I'm not really a big musicals guy. And what I mean by that is like the 42nd Street type musicals. But like one of the first things I ever saw was Sweeney Todd. And you put an 8-year-old me in front of Sweeney Todd on a live stage and that blood flying, it was amazing. But, you really do have to ask that question. Like, okay, you're taking a stage show, you're not making it a movie, you're making basically a live or tape presentation of the stage show. what's it going to lose? Is it going to translate? And what they were able to do here, it doesn't seem like some guy in the back row with a really nice camera was recording the whole thing. And not ever having seen it in person, I can't tell you, but it really seems that they captured as much as you possibly could of the live stage show experience in what they did.
They do make it feel like you're there watching. They do a really good job of that. And the director, whose name I've just forgotten, whatever, does a good job of making you part of the show, making you feel like you're part of the show. It's only a couple of times when I feel like I had to be reminded of it though, like when the crowd would laugh a couple of times. And you're like, oh yeah, I forget that there are actual people here watching this right now. Because this is a recording of the show that they did in 2016. One of the shows they did in 2016 with the original cast. And you look back at that cast that they had, that original cast, and you're like, that's where all the actors who are doing things right now came from. It's like Daveed Diggs and Leslie Odom Jr. and of course Manuel Miranda and Jonathan Groff and Renee Elise Goldsberry and Jasmine Cephas Jones and Philippa Sue. All these people who are acting and like killing it right now. You're like, oh, they all came from here. Anthony Ramos, who's going to be in the Heights soon. He's been everywhere. He's in I can't remember the name of the movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga. I can't remember.
Oh Jesus, the music movie. We suck as film critics. This was the movie of the year 2 years ago. Not a song to remember. I'm thinking of the Mandy Moore movie. Where the hell is my head at?
It's a Star is Born.
Star is Born. There you go.
He was in that as well. He's been in a lot of stuff, and all these people, they come from Hamilton. A lot of them come from Hamilton.
Yeah. Well, when you have a groundbreaking, like universally loved stage production like this, the same thing happened with Rent way back in the days. I mean, Taye Diggs, Idina Menzel, all these people came from that. What's his name? Guy on The Flash. I always forget his name. He was in it too in the original stage. This is like it's a bucket of talent that's handed to film producers, and honestly, stage actors are the most talented. I mean, it's not a universal rule, but I mean, stage actors have to love the craft. So you don't get people that just want to be movie stars. So when you get a barrel of talent like that handed to you, they're going to use it, and usually in the right way. So it's not really surprising, but it is cool to look back and see that.
So I absolutely loved it. I'm probably not going to be one of those people that watches it every day, like I know some people will, just because I don't watch anything every day.
No.
I don't even watch Boogie Nights every day, and I could watch it every day. But yeah, it's look, Disney hit themselves a home run with this one, man. I can't imagine. I want to see the numbers. I want to see the viewership numbers on Hamilton, and I will guarantee you Disney will release them.
Well, I was just about to say, what's Disney's stance on doing that?
They don't really. None of these places reduce the numbers for everything. But when something hits huge, they'll usually find a way to release the numbers. They're going to release the numbers on Hamilton at some point. They're going to be through the roof. Yeah,
and bringing it back to the beginning, I mean, you can't fault. Disney. You could fault Disney if they didn't make the move they did for releasing it when they did. But honestly, it's what is a good business decision for them is actually a perfect timing for the rest of us. There's it's not really through ignorance. It's through lack of taking the time to think about it, which some people might qualify as the same thing. But hey, we've all got our lives to live, and a lot, if not most of us, go through school. We read especially if we're not personally touched by any of this stuff, we read our history books, we accept it for what it is, and we move on. And I
think people need this story right now.
Yeah. So for it to come out a year from now in theaters, it might not have had the same impact. I don't know what next year's going to look like, but
they might still re-release it in the theaters. In fact, I'm sure that they will. They will re-release it in the theaters and do sing-alongs with it. And I mean, Jesus Christ, what's to stop them?
A Fathom Events type thing.
I mean, shit. They still show Mamma Mia in theaters right now because they're sing-alongs that people still go. In fact, I think they were in the top 10 recently, a Mamma Mia movie for, nothing's in theaters, but, the very few theaters that are open, they do stuff like that. Because those are the kind of things that still bring people out. So I'll guarantee you that Hamilton will be in a big screen somewhere, and I'll guarantee you it'll probably make money. Because people will still want to see it on a big screen.
Mm-hmm.
They will still want to be in that crowd experience, singing along to all these songs. So yeah, Disney's going to do everything they can with this movie, and I don't blame them. All the people who've been really kind of been haters about it, and there have been a lot of them. I mean, what did you expect them to do, and what would you? I mean, what did you want them to do? Did
Would
you
they
want
have
them to
rather
go
it
for it?
stayed in the vault until it could go into theaters a year from now?
Right.
I mean,
It's dumb. It's
yeah.
just stupid. So yeah. So Hamilton. By now you've probably already seen it. You know, my experience writing my Hamilton review really fucking sucked. We talked about that.
Yeah.
That day. I woke up early to do my review because the embargo was at 9 a.m. I think on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Tuesday morning.
10 a.m. Tuesday morning, and I woke up early to do it, which I almost never do because I don't sleep enough as it is. But I woke up early to do it, and I got it done. I got it done nice and early too, and we had a technical fail at the site.
Oh, our website just decided not to save your completed review. That's all. I mean,
and it's partially my fault for not noticing that it wasn't saving, but you know, I'm in the middle of writing. I'm not thinking about it.
oh yeah.
And it's just, you know, went to save it, and whoop, it was gone.
There's nothing worse than that.
But here's the detail that I didn't tell you. Here's a detail that I didn't tell you that made me extra mad and why I was so, like, literally depressed all day. Before I hit publish, I had hit select all and copied it, just in case there was a problem. Just I had this itch.
Yeah.
That made me think, like, just in case. And after I did that, I went to add a headlining image, and it seemed to work fine. Usually, that's an indicator of when something's wrong.
Right.
The image won't go in, but the image seemed to work fine. So I said, okay, so it's fine. And so I went and I was writing the little slug.
Yeah, the little SEO metadata stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I usually do is I'll cut and paste a little part of the review and I'll put it in there for the slug.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. I cut and pasted a little part.
Oh no!
Bottom, and I put it in the slug, and then I tried to save it, and it didn't work.
Oh,
I was like, no.
Oh, that's a killer.
No. So when I started the new review, and you remember you said, "Did you start a new one with this little part right here?" That was the little part that I had saved.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me! It's got to be here somewhere.
Oh, that is oh man, I've done something similar to that before, but that is the absolute worst. Man. Was when you're writing reviews and you lose it, it's because it's not like writing anything else where you have well, maybe you guys have structures, but I mean, you're more writing from the heart to sound cheesy than anything else. You're writing off your emotions and what you felt about the movie. You'll have a structure, but you can't replicate. Yeah, you can't get it again. You can't do it again.
You can't get it again, and that's why I was so reluctant to do it again. So I was like, it's not going to be as good as the first one because I really liked my first review.
Well, of course you did. That's why it got lost, I'm sure.
Right.
Jesus.
And I don't say that often about my reviews where I like something, but the thing about Hamilton was I fought with myself about whether or not I was actually going to review it or not.
Mm-hmm. Why is that?
For a while there, I wasn't planning on it.
How come?
Because it's not truly a movie. Sounds like it's an experience.
Yeah.
Is it really a movie? No.
That's true.
It's a filmed version of a stage play. Under almost any other circumstance, I would never review that movie. If it were August Osage County, I wouldn't have reviewed it.
Mm-hmm.
If it were Rent, I wouldn't have reviewed it. If it were West Side Story, I wouldn't have reviewed it. I wouldn't have reviewed any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned
Hamilton. I felt like I had to.
Right.
You know, so I was like, for literally until the night before, when I watched it, I had almost no real interest in reviewing. So when I saw it and I was inspired to review it, I did it, and I liked the fact that I was capable of doing it. That was the other part of it, was that I didn't feel like I wanted to do it, but I also wasn't sure that I could.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't feel myself qualified to review stage plays.
Right.
I don't. That's why I don't. I could do that on Around Town if I wanted to,
mm-hmm.
but I don't feel qualified to do it. I don't watch many of them. I watch some. I go to a few a year, but do I watch them with the same way that I watch movies? No, I don't. Do I have the same knowledge of them that I do movies? No, I don't. So I wasn't sure that I was even qualified to review it. And so, like I said, when I was inspired to do it, I was really inspired to do it. And so when that first one vanished, it like took everything out of me.
So everything lined up for that to be the worst experience of your day.
Yeah, and I was, like I said, I was legit depressed all day.
That's a dagger.
Until I just said fuck it, and I just did it, because I had people not only texting me, "Where's your Hamilton review?" Like, I'm waiting for it. Like, I want to see it. You know, so I had stuff like that, and I was like, I need to do it. You know, and plus we had a bunch of people in our laughter group, and a lot of other people who didn't get a chance to screen it, and I was like, well, I want to rub it in their face.
Nothing wrong with that. You know,
which is also something else that I do on occasion. I did that this week too.
You have to. It's fun.
It's fun for me.
Yeah.
I did that this week with that movie Greyhound, which people were asking about on the site. I think Jim Judy asked about it. Our friend Jim Judy was asking about Greyhound, and and I got the notice that it was somewhere, and that we could watch it. And I figured that probably 90% of our group doesn't have the access to it.
It's not fun just for you. I love seeing people get butt hurt.
So I made sure as soon as I found out where it was, I went on there and said, "Oh yeah, this is here, by the way."
That's funny.
Yes, that's petty. It's petty. I admit it's petty, and it's me fucking with people. But you know what? I gotta
get your joy where you can in these days.
I gotta find the fun where I can, man.
Right.
That's how I do it.
So we got a bunch of news to get to, but real quick before we do that, let's talk about the Outpost, which stars one actor in Hollywood who seems like he's going to forever be not just in his dad's shadow, but on that line just outside of movie star.
Putting himself there on purpose.
That must be it, right? And of course, we're talking about Scott Eastwood, who it looks exactly like I've never seen a father and son look that similar. And he's, by all accounts and by everything I've seen him in, he's a fine actor. He's just as good as his dad was, at least. I mean, Clint Eastwood was no Laurence Olivier. He's got the movie star look, obviously. He looks just like his dad.
He's not his father.
What do you mean? How so?
He's not his father in terms of, like, presence on the screen.
Like the intangibles, yeah, okay, I get that.
He doesn't have that thing, which is why I think he always, and I have to assume this is intentional. He talks through gritted teeth just like his dad does.
Oh yeah. I
was like, come on. Even in this movie, he has a saying where he's like, "Giddy up" or something like that. Something silly like that. He has a line, and you're just like, that. He said that exactly. So,
call somebody a punk or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, but he's a perfectly fine actor, but he's not his old man. Maybe he'll get there. That's possible, but I don't know if he's going to be entrusted with the kind of roles that his father had that made him iconic. Like his father had all those westerns that made him iconic. He had, Dirty Harry roles that made him iconic.
Right.
Scott Eastwood's probably not going to ever get those roles.
Yeah.
He's probably not ever going to get the kind of film that gives him that kind of lead to command the screen like that, because he doesn't have the charisma of his old man to do that. So he probably won't do it. And he's good here in The Outpost, which is a movie that I think is fantastic and one of the best war movies about modern war, not like 1917 or something like that, but about modern war that I've seen in ages. I think great.
We don't get many. I mean, American Sniper, Black Hawk Down is kind of like that, but
I think this is better than both of those.
Is it? What am I trying to say? So, it seems strange that in 2020 we haven't had a year or two that was flush with Iraq and war and terrorism movies. They pop around here and there. There's a lot of them. There's a whole ton of them on like VOD, but there hasn't been a lot of mainstream highline war movies, and it's almost like a law that you have to make a bunch of movies about a war. You think it's because everybody's still hurting, or it's not popular anymore, or anything like that?
Well, let's talk about why we don't get those many movies anymore. Because we don't talk about those wars anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, we've been in them for like 2 decades. We don't talk about those movies anymore. When we were in those wars for 5 to 10 years, we did get a lot of those movies. We were getting Jarhead and all sorts of things. We were getting a whole bunch of these movies about about those war experiences.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them took very different angles on them, you know, but you know, when they were very much in the conversation, yeah, we got a bunch of movies about those things, but they're not anymore. We just kind of just accept that we're there, and then that's kind of it. And to be fair, there's been so much other chaos going around, right, the last like 4 years that those things have kind of slipped to the background. So you don't get as many movies about that stuff. You
Yeah.
get those kinds of movies when they're very much in the conversation.
So
Um,
this one's about a group of soldiers at a in an Afghanistan outpost. So
yeah,
just
true
to
story.
highlight that for it's a true story.
True
Just
story.
if
Based on Jake Tapper's book,
uh-huh.
The Battle of Camdish, which is I think one of the bloodiest battles in Army history.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Directed by Rod Lurie. Rod Lurie, former film critic, former West Point grad, not former, he just is a West Point grad. Um, Made a bunch of movies. I think this is his first movie since Straw Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's his first movie since 2011 when he did that terrible Straw Dogs remake. He's done some good stuff, man. He did the Contender, which I really like, with Joe Now. He did The Last Castle, another movie about the military. Resurrecting the Champ, I don't like that one. Nothing But the Truth, I don't really care for that either. But he's kind of hit or miss as a director, but he's really on point with The Outpost. And the cast is pretty much an ensemble. And I compared it to Black Hawk Down in some respect. It's also another kind of a siege movie.
Mm-hmm.
That was, you know, soldiers kind of defending themselves down to the last man in a lot of ways. A little bit Lone Survivor in there as well. But it's an ensemble, you know. So you got Scott Eastwood, you got Orlando Bloom, you got Caleb Landry Jones, you got
Corey Hardrick.
Mel Gibson's boy, Milo Gibson, in there. It's mostly an ensemble, so you don't get a lot of character interaction, a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of characters that you like really can grip onto. I think
Right.
probably the one you can is Caleb Landry Jones's character, who's sort of like a misfit of the
Mm-hmm.
group. He's probably the main one that you can. But the movie, man, I think it, in terms of capturing how nerve-wracking it is to be in a place like that, because that outpost, um, it was sent there on basically a diplomatic mission to kind of communicate with the locals and do projects and kind of build bridges, theoretically and literally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's isolated. It's out there in the middle of nowhere in Taliban land, basically, and they're just sitting ducks.
That the whole
and they're
idea.
under constant attack, like that first 30-40 minutes of the movie, because the actual Battle of Camdish doesn't start until about an hour into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
2-hour film starts about an hour into the movie. That first hour is just, it's a little bit jarhead, where they're kind of like waiting around for stuff to do, but at the same time they're getting attacked, like little skirmishes every day. And
Yeah.
the movie really does a great job of capturing how tense that was. Like in the movie Jarhead, there's none of that. Like they don't expect to get hit at all, and they're not looking for it. And they don't.
Yeah. That was Desert Storm, right?
They're bored, huh?
Jarhead was Desert Storm, right? Not the.
Maybe I can't remember what Jarhead was. It might have been. But the opening hour has elements of that. But they're not. But in this case, they're getting attacked so often that they're just sort of used to it. You know, they're at the point where they're even ignoring like the threats and the warnings that they're getting. Like they're getting like legit warnings, like, "Hey, these guys are coming." And you're like, "Yeah. You say that all the time." And then
Right.
skirmishes. They're not ready for the big one when it comes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it comes.
It's the boy who cried wolf, right? And it does.
So you get the first hour, which is like you're in the middle of this boiling pot where you're like, well, this tension is insane. You're like waiting for this thing to come. And then when it comes, Laurie does this fantastic job of putting you in the middle of it and letting you feel what it's like to be under that attack. It's just, I think the way that's done, the way he does that is so good. And I was thoroughly into this movie from the beginning all the way to the end. And ultimately it's about, you know, the brotherhood and sacrifice of the whole thing. And I think that's really highlighted by what happens after the fighting is over and they're still helping each other and sacrificing for each other even after the fighting stops.
Right.
So this movie, I well, I can't recommend it enough. I think it's one of the best I've seen this year, and definitely the best thing that I think Lurie has done in his career.
That's good to hear, but also surprising. Everything I saw prior to this, from the poster to the stills to the trailer, seemed very video on demand. I did not expect to see the kind of positive reviews I've seen. But here's the thing: the idea of these combat outposts, where you're not just in the war zone, you're off by yourself in a war zone, and you're 150% reliant on air support if something happens. And guess what? If there's a dust storm, if there's a regular storm, if about 10 other things happen, you're not getting air support, so you're by yourself. You remember the documentary Restrepo? Still one of my favorite documentaries to this day. That was a combat outpost they were in, and you get a really good look at just how isolated you are, where you're in a small cage in the middle of the wolf pack, hoping not to get eaten. And the idea of these guys every day, human body's not made to keep its adrenaline up that high. So to be like that, to be on alert every single day, and then finally have to fight and be worn out by then, it's amazing. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, me neither. It's why I'm not a soldier.
Yeah.
I'm not built for it.
Right. Well, speaking of people that were built, that's a good segue to our next one, because Cyborg's not happy.
Look at that segue.
You like that. So came out this week, Joss Whedon, who, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think we've heard much bad about him in the news or in the gossip sections before. I don't remember. I just remember him being everybody's darling, and everybody loves Buffy so much. I never really understood the Buffy love.
This is another aspect of the story that we can get into, because what you just said is very interesting. So the story that you're talking about is about this feud that is broken out between Ray Stevens, Justice League actor who played Cyborg, and Joss Whedon. And I mean, I probably shouldn't even call it a feud. I've been calling it a beef all week, but it's hard to call it that because Joss Whedon ain't said nothing yet. It's pretty much been one-sided. But it started on Monday. Ray Fisher posted an image posted a tweet with a video from Comic-Con, and I was there at that Comic-Con, so I remembered it very well. And I probably commented on it a lot when I was doing my stuff about Comic-Con that year. And he was up there cheerleading for Justice League, as he should. That's what he's there to do. That's what they're all there to do. I probably made more jokes about Ben Affleck cheerleading about it since I knew he was trying to get out.
Right.
But Ray Fisher was there cheerleading for it too. But he posted on Twitter, a video of that, and he said, "I forcefully retract all of this." And people were like, "What the hell is that about?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, what it's about is Zack Snyder's the Snyder Cut is coming out, the one that's going to have all this extra Cyborg footage that we didn't get. You know, he's going to get to see the movie that he thought he was going to be in."
Because he really got the shaft in that whole deal, didn't he?
He got the worst out of all those guys.
He was reduced to a booyah.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what they said that he was mad about, was the booyah. But he posted that, saying he forced retraction. People were like, "What that's all that about?" Well, the very next day he tweeted again. He was like, and he accused Joss Whedon of being abusive, negative, unprofessional on set. I remember Joss Whedon came in there to pick up, to clean up, to do reshoots on Justice League after Zack Snyder left because of the tragedy in his family. And Joss Whedon was called in to finish up, and he did extensive reshoots on the movie. Basically changed a lot of it, changed almost everything.
Right.
And of course the movie bombed and nobody liked it and whatever. So this obviously surprised people. He came out and said this. Now, like I said, Joss Whedon hasn't said anything, but producer John, he also added that he was aided in this, like abetted in this, by producers John Berg and Jeff Johns, who were
those are big names too.
Those are two big names. They were running the DCEU at the time. They were basically running it. They both, after Justice League bombed, they were both gone.
Yeah.
But there's still powerful people within Warner Brothers. They still are.
Oh yeah.
So for him to call them out means something. At least that's why I take it as. It means something that he had the guts to call them out and do that. But,
yeah. Well, here's the thing. This stuff. I mean, one of the beautiful things about all this craziness going on is that things have always needed to happen. that people didn't want to take the risk for, or that it wasn't we can just ignore it or whatever. That's people are getting past that now, and the balls on Ray Fisher. I mean, he did the right thing. I'm not decrying him. I'm saying that in a bad way, but the balls on him. It's his first major
assuming
movie.
He's telling the truth.
Assuming if he's not, even bigger balls. Be honest with you, but it's his first movie. He doesn't have. I mean, if Ben Affleck were to do this, okay. He's got 30 years in the industry and star power to give away. This is Ray Fisher's first movie, a major movie. From what I'm hearing, the guy's, he's a classically trained actor. He's a really big stage guy. So maybe he just doesn't care about the movie. But everybody knows the saying, "You'll never work in this town again." So
I think he's super bitter. That's why he did it. I think he's bitter because he did get the shaft. And really,
yeah,
I can see it both ways. Like I'm like, on one hand, he probably sees it like, well, what have I got to lose?
Mm-hmm.
I've already gotten the shaft because of what happened with this movie.
Right.
So what are they gonna do? Shaft me again? I mean, what?
Yeah.
I mean, probably not. But at the same time, the DCEU is on the upswing.
Mm-hmm.
Snyder Cut is coming out. What if the version that Snyder puts out, with all the added Ray Fisher footage, turns out to be a lot better? And they want to continue on doing more, bringing Cyborg back, because the DCU is not dead; it's alive and well now.
And I think they will.
He could be burning bridges now. I mean, like I said, Berg and Johns are still there as producers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They work with Warner Brothers extensively still, because he could be hurting himself still.
Yeah,
so, I don't know, but at the same time, the fact that he's willing to call those guys out lends me some credibility. Now, John Berg did call it, say it was untrue.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was untrue. He said the only thing he remembers for sure being upset about was being forced to say "booyah." He didn't like that catchphrase. I don't blame him. It sucks. Kevin Smith came out too. Kevin Smith said he heard stories from the set of Justice League that did not put Joss Whedon in a good light either.
Yeah,
and this goes back to what you mentioned in the beginning about Whedon and how he's been there, kind of the geek favorite for a lot of years, and it's true he has. But it's also interesting how quickly we turn on people, because Joss Whedon, there have been stories in the past. Like I remember the story about him and Charisma Carpenter from back in the day in Buffy. Like there are little hints of things that show that he's probably not the paragon of virtue that he may have painted himself out to be.
Mm-hmm.
But because and I'm guilty of this too, because he puts out stuff that we like, we're willing to overlook.
Oh yeah, big time.
I like almost everything that Joss Whedon has done, whether it's Buffy or Firefly or whatever. I've liked almost everything he's done. So I'm willing to overlook those little things that may. And plus, he would make shows about strong female women. Does he do that as a cover, sort of? You don't know. You just don't know. And maybe you need to go back. Like maybe it's worth going back to watch some of that stuff again. Because it's been a while since he's done one of those things that with a strong female character that was really good. It's been a while. Maybe we need to go back and watch those and see how woke they really were. And
it's funny you say that, because one of the things that came out about his reshoots of the Justice League, because he really is. I liked Firefly. Buffy was fine. I know I probably get lambasted. I was never a huge fan for whatever reason, and all that. But the guy's talented. I'm not going to take that away, obviously. But his style he gets into the Avengers. He does the first Avengers movie, where Captain America is wearing the stupidest outfit anybody's ever seen. He has this kind of theme taste that he puts in his movies. It's a little different, a little weird. And for somebody that has always been championed as having these very strong female leads, you say it's a cover jokingly, but it might not be, because one of the stories I heard was about on the set of the Justice League was that Gal Gadot was not happy with how she was getting treated. Specifically, the one scene where the Flash falls on top of her and she's like all awkward and everything like that. And she straight up refused to do it, so they used a double. Little stuff like that, kind of minimizing them in a way. But then for Ray Fisher, I still remember to this day, one of the first positive points I said about Justice League every time I talked about it was him. His cyborg it's a hard role to play. You're 90% CGI. he brought this gravity to that character, and this inner torment to Victor Stone that it absolutely had to have to make it needed. And you could see flashes of that throughout that movie, and then you can kind of see where it was cut together. Like you have Victor Stone talking to Wonder Woman, Diana Prince outside, and it's really heavy. And then 2 scenes later, he's making morbid jokes with Flash in Superman's grave. You can kind of see where the cuts were. As these stories come out, I am just more and more interested in seeing Zack Snyder's version, and I'm more and more positive it's going to be better.
That was the conspiracy theory that I had, was that all of this was a way to build up interest in Zack Snyder's.
It's working. It's working.
Would I be completely shocked if that were the case?
Nothing shocks me
Especially
anymore.
from Ray Fisher, who has the most to gain from Zack Snyder's Justice League doing well.
Oh yeah.
As like the conspiracy theorist in me, the QAnon in me, is like,
Interesting.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what, like, if Joss Whedon says anything at all. He might not. If I was
it's not going to do any. You will never help yourself. There's nothing he can say to help himself. You just keep your mouth shut.
Keep my mouth
shut
down.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how quickly we turned on our favorites, though. I mean, Whedon was a darling for a lot of years, and Avengers was 2012. Avengers: Age of Ultron was 2 years after that.
Mm-hmm.
The Justice League was 2 years after that. It doesn't take much, but there have been stories, and it doesn't take a lot to turn people's minds about you, because Whedon is basically, he's almost persona non grata right now. Because remember, he was also going to do that Batgirl movie that they pulled his ass off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, there ain't been a whole lot of talk about Joss Whedon doing much of anything since then.
There has been, and you know what? That maybe Ray Fisher knows some things behind the scenes that we don't know, because to a layperson, Joss Whedon is a big, powerful name in Hollywood. Maybe not so much now as he was 5-10 years ago, but still, maybe he knows a little inside baseball that it's not that big a deal to call out Joss Whedon.
What's funny is that he was pulled off that Batgirl movie. I think it was the Batgirl or Supergirl, but I think it was Batgirl.
It was Batgirl.
It was Batgirl, yeah. And Supergirl's doing, somebody else is doing Supergirl, or that got canned or something. I don't remember. Whatever. But the interesting thing is, Batgirl was basically, he was pulled off of that basically, one, because, people were starting to talk a little bit, but two, because you wanted to have a female writer to do that movie. So you bring in like Christina Hodson, who did, Birds of Prey and all sorts of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, Whedon would have been the guy to turn to write a character like that.
Oh yeah,
Whedon would have been the person. In fact, when he was first named as that writer, you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you couldn't fathom having a woman actually write it.
You're like, shouldn't there be a woman on this? It's funny how quickly things change, man.
It's funny how recently and how dense we can realize we were. Like, oh, we need a good, well-written female story. Well, Joss Whedon's obviously our guy. Why would a guy be the go-to at any point in time? But it's just funny how
guys can't write good female characters. Obviously they can, and Whedon has done it.
Yeah, but they can't write it as good as a woman can.
Good female characters, but now it's like, doesn't it make sense?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, and there's a lot of that coming up in all areas with representation and roles being filled by the people that they're not based on, but by who they should be filled with. So, can a man ever can a writer of equal talent that's male and female, can the male write the women's part? Is it possible to write it just as well as a female? Or does a female have some innate understanding of what she's gone through, that personal relationship with the material that a guy just can't capture?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, like I said, obviously men have written good female characters in the past, but I think we're in a moment where, one, that's just not a good look right now. It's just not. But two, any guy who does write a female lead character like that, like a role that, like a film that's about a single female character, you probably want to have a woman write that character, just because she might have nuances that a guy might not It just makes, to me, it makes more sense. But I don't know. I don't know, man. It's to me, I'm just blown away by how fast things have changed
Yeah.
about stuff like that, and about how quickly we can turn on some of our favorites. All that stuff. We're in a moment. We're in a time right now where nothing is the same next week as it was the week before. It's just
Well, that's it. I mean, it can turn back around. Unfortunately, and I guess fortunately for some people, it can turn back around as quickly as it turned bad. But it seems very, very random who gets forgiven and who doesn't. I mean, there's certainly been people that have done things. And do I think that one mistake a person makes should ruin their whole life? No, unless that mistake is indicative of a lot of things that they just didn't get caught doing. But with Whedon, and this isn't that big a deal. Oh yeah, director was a dick. Everybody knows people in Hollywood can be dicks. No big deal. As long as nothing else comes out, he's good. But then, like Mel Gibson, he's never living his shit down. Well, especially because he keeps apparently going back to that well. But with everything going on, if Whedon's smart, he'll keep his head down, and everybody will forget about this in 2 weeks.
Probably a good idea for him to
Mm-hmm.
stay quiet for a while. I don't expect to hear anything about a new Whedon project for a minute. Like I said, we haven't in a while anyway. He might want to go and like write a comic book for a while.
Yeah, go
Like,
back to
and
the
I don't
roots.
mean like not like a Marvel comic. I mean like do like a creator-owned like comic book or something. Like you want to go and do something like that, and get back into people's good graces again or something. Like go back and do like a Firefly comic or something.
Everybody wants season 2. Finish it in graphic novel form.
Look, Firefly had great female characters in it too. I mean, so I mean, I don't know, man. It's just it's interesting. I still like Joss Whedon. I don't know if these things that Ray Fisher are talking about are true. I really don't. It would be really odd if they weren't. But there's two sides to every story. There's not two sides to everything, but there's two sides to every story when it comes to every conflict.
Yeah.
If there was conflict, then Whedon might see things a little bit differently than Fisher does. It could be a misunderstanding. Who knows? Who the hell knows?
Well, the Kevin Smith thing is what really nailed this down for me, and we won't stay on this too much longer.
He wasn't there either.
He wasn't. And so allegedly, this is all allegedly, but if what is being said there is true, I mean, it's also a when there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. But what was alleged is that when Kevin Smith was at Skywalker Ranch for something, I forget what, he was working. Some of the folks that were working there had worked on both versions of Solo and both versions of Justice League. And one of the VFX designers was especially chatty about Whedon, saying that he spent a lot of the time just walking around talking shit about Snyder's version of the movie and talking shit about Snyder. And
wildly unprofessional.
And extremely inappropriate, considering that the guy had to leave the project because he lost his daughter. I mean, shut your mouth and make the movie you want to make. I mean, that's the part that really, a director being shitty to people on set, it sucks. But as long as you're not being overly inappropriate, I get it. Everybody gets pissed off at work sometimes. But that's kind of says more to me about who he is as a person and is indicative of a deeper thing.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. That's at the bare minimum, it's unprofessional.
Mm-hmm.
At the bare minimum, it's one of those kinds of things that would make me not want to work with him again.
Right.
Just because it's so unprofessional. Like, especially for somebody who's been around in the business as long as he has. Mm-hmm. It's like, really? I mean, that's kind of the way you are on set. If you don't like his movie, okay, who cares? Then you're there to fashion the movie that you want. So go ahead and do that. Why you got to run him down?
Are you so insecure in your ability that you got to knock it down before then?
Yeah, it's crazy. So
I know you want to get back to Overwatch, but I got at least one more thing I want to talk about.
I do. I want to play some Overwatch, man.
I know, man.
I played yesterday, and I had 3 glorious games.
Yeah.
Of Overwatch, of team deathmatch, and in Overwatch. And I've been getting some pretty decent scores and some pretty decent kills. I'm still not good, and I probably never will be really good at it. In fact, my streamer today, I'll probably be extra bad just because people might be watching. But
there's something about that. There's something about getting in the zone on a first-person shooter that
fun, man.
Yeah,
it's really fun, and maybe it's because I found a character that I'm down with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I find like remember I told you when I was talking about it, that one of the big problems I'm having with it is that there's so many characters that you can't get used to someone. There's too many to cycle through. It's like, let me try this guy, let me try this guy, let me try this guy.
Right.
And I finally found that one that I click with. And I'm like, yeah, okay. This person has everything that I like, my style of playing.
Now it's all coming together.
This is the one I'm gonna ride or die with. So I found that character. So now I'm playing it and I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm starting to get some kills here. And it's actually getting really, really fun. And I want you to play it. And it's not on Xbox Game Pass.
That's all right. I've been using Game Pass. I don't mind buying it. I just one of the big problems with first person shooters.
Get the basic version. Don't get like the legendary version. Get the basic version. That's what I got for cheaper.
The biggest problem, and this is exactly what you're talking about. The biggest problem with first person shooters is they've never been able to get matchmaking right. So when you're trying to learn, they always drop you into a group that's got people that have been playing 20 hours a day. And then I still remember, well, apparently I don't remember. It was Call of Duty Modern Warfare. No, it's Call of Duty Black Ops 2, I think, something like that. And I was all about that COD on the one before. I was awesome at it. I get into this one I hadn't played in a long time. Controls were a little bit different. Start up, boom. Start up, boom. No, not yet. I've just
free. I'm surprised you haven't played it.
I haven't put down Red Dead Redemption yet. But
put Red Dead Redemption down, quit and play some Warzone.
I've got like 3 oxen to find so I can get my my track coat. Getting shot and killed. I mean, there's such a hurt. It's like a train getting going. It's very slow to start, but if you can stick in there. But hey, look, one thing I've never understood is Hollywood finances and how economics works in Hollywood. You obviously heard about Apple winning the rights for Emancipation with Will Smith.
Yeah, the Will Smith, Antoine Fuqua runaway slave movie.
Right. So 120 north of 120 million, but they always just say the deal. I have no idea what that means. Does that mean is that money in the budget? Is that just for the rights to it? Is that for?
It's for the rights.
Okay, so they still have to spend X amount of dollars to make the movie.
The movie still needs to be made, yeah.
So that's a lot of freaking money. That's crazy.
It is a lot of money, and but it's also going to be in theaters, so it's not just going to be on Apple TV Plus.
Is it surprising to you? I mean, it's good to see Will Smith attached to this role, but is it surprising to you that he hasn't been more of a vocal leader in like the minority movement in Hollywood? Because I seem to remember him being very outspoken about those kind of things back in the day. And no,
I don't remember him being particularly outspoken. Maybe I just don't remember. I don't.
It's also possible I'm just thinking of a couple episodes of Fresh Prince, and I'm making that be like he's revolutionary. But
yeah, I don't recall that. It could be true. I just don't know. Yeah. It's funny that Hollywood continues to spend so much money on when they do spend a lot of money on a movie about the Black experience. Of course, it's about a runaway slave. So, whatever. And those movies, fine. Yeah, we'll dump all our money about a movie about a slave, sure.
Well, and see, you're absolutely not wrong. And I'm trying to remember his name. And this shows you the failings of American history and why things like Hamilton are so important. But because I consider myself a history buff, and I was in like AP history in high school, and I'd never heard about this guy until much later in life. But there were other African Americans around the time of slavery that were doing other things that weren't slaves. I don't understand why they can't make, a movie or two about them. There was one. I'm trying to think of who it was. He was like the first African American, not congressman, but something high up, and he invented a bunch of stuff. It wasn't George Washington Carver. That sucks that I don't remember his name for a number of reasons, but mostly because moral of the story is there's
history. I don't remember all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories waiting to be told that they're just skipping over for the sensational stuff.
The next big story will be Black Wall Street and the destruction of it. That'll be the next big thing, and that'll make that someone will buy that for $100 million too.
Yeah. Well, shit. Look at the Tulsa massacre. It took Watchmen to get most of the country to even know what that was.
That's what I was just referring to. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so that's the same thing as Black. Well, there you go. I don't even know those are the same things.
Yeah, that's
crazy, man.
But yeah, I mean, as soon as they showed that episode of Watchmen, that first episode, I was like, now they'll make a movie of it. because I've been thinking, why haven't they made a movie of this for a long time? And I didn't find out about it until later in life. It's probably my 20s. I had never heard of it. And but I was always like, why haven't someone made a movie about this? No one had made a movie about it. And I was surprised that there were so many other people who had never heard of it until they saw that episode of Watchmen.
Yeah.
And then look that shit up on Wikipedia.
The power of television, man. The power of television and film.
But you know what? Sometimes that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what it takes, man. You know? People are learning more about Black culture now in these last few months than they have in their entire lives.
Yeah.
I've heard more discussion about Mount Rushmore and the guy who actually helped get Mount Rushmore up there, has his connections to the KKK and the people who were on Mount Rushmore and their pasts as well. You know, 2 of them owned slaves, 2 of them okayed executions of brown and Black people. You know, so it's like you're hearing more about these things now than ever before. And only thing that's going to come springing out of this is more entertainment that tells the Black story.
Yeah.
And tells history from the Black perspective.
Well, hopefully understanding as well.
hopefully understanding as well. Hopefully it leads to something that matters. All this other bullshit that they've been trying to give us, like, oh, well, we're going to change the Redskins name now. Well, yeah, you should do that. But that's great. Oh, we're going to do the Black national anthem for NFL games. I don't think that's necessary, but okay. You know, that's nice. But we don't. First of all, 90% of us don't know our own national anthem.
I didn't even know there was one. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know there was.
I couldn't sing it, and I guarantee you, probably 99% of us could not sing the second verse. So I don't think that's necessary, but that seems like you're just trying to give us something.
If you want a really clear look,
without actually giving us something, like
100% on point with that. The funniest thing that illustrates what you're talking about so perfectly, and is one of the most sadly funny things I've seen in a while, is was it the Texas Realtor boards that said they're refusing to call the master bedroom anymore.
It's so stupid.
And then the celebrities that came out and said, that's great and all, but how about you start showing Black families all of the homes, or letting them know about all of the loans they can get. Actually do something that matters other than calling it that.
Exactly. It's like at the same time that they're changing like the names of the master bedrooms, the government right now has just slashed fair housing practices. Like the things that make it equal for Blacks and whites and everybody to get the same housing, they're stripping those protections away.
It's classic.
It's like,
look over here.
Like,
take this
that's
away.
What you're supposed to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Not this thing. Say, oh, we're gonna change the name of our maple syrup. I was like, okay,
everybody loves Aunt Jemima. Just leave it alone and actually do the stuff that matters.
Like that's fine, but I think you're missing the point.
It really is, man. It's funny in a horrible way, but it makes me laugh when people are so.
Oh man, yeah.
It's you can go conspiracy or comical with it. Either they're so stupid they think that matters, or conspiracy they're like, well, we'll do all this so we seem like we care while we're doing this over here, you know. But we I promise you next week on Cinema Royale, happy fun time with the Punch Drunk Critics. We're gonna talk about all happy stuff, all fun stuff.
We're going to talk about the movie that I have gotten more response to than any other movie this year.
I'm guessing you're talking about The Old Guard.
I'm talking about The Old Guard, the embargo lifted on that Friday, so my review is up on punchdrunkcritics.com. I have gotten more reactions to that review. I had no idea that people were waiting on that movie and waiting on it. I've gotten like over 100 retweets on that review. Gina Prince Bythewood liked my review, the director herself. There have been people just sitting around like, I can't wait for this. And I'm like, damn, I got more response to this than I did for Hamilton. And people were waiting on that too. But there were more people talking about The Old Guard. I can't wait to talk about it with you and get some other reactions. We will try to have a guest next week too. So
well, hey, I mean, The Old Guard is exactly what people are looking for right now. I mean, Hamilton, obviously people are happy about it, but it does further highlight all the crap that's going on right now and remind you of all the nastiness. But The Old Guard seems like a good old fashioned action movie that you can get lost in. Oh well,
More
shit.
to it than that.
Well, people don't know that though. From the trailer, they think it's going to be a balls out action movie. And God bless Charlize Theron becoming an action star in her 40s.
There is plenty of action. But that's one of the things that's good about it is that there's a nice blend of action and character and world building. It's really, really good.
Nice.
So yeah, we can definitely talk about that. And yeah, Charlize Theron's a badass in it. It's got my man crush Matthias Schoenaerts in it. It's got Kiki Lane in it. Chiwetel Ejiofor is in it. A really good cast all throughout. So
For sure.
it's about immortals. So
There can be only one.
yeah, thankfully it's not like that. Thankfully it's not like Highlander.
You mean to tell me Sean Connery's not playing a Spaniard?
No.
I am from Spain, Highlander.
No, he's not, thankfully. But yeah, this has been fun.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna go and jump on some Overwatch for a couple of hours. Yeah, so we'll be back next week with another episode of Cinema Royale. This has been good, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate everybody watching. If you're watching us on the archive or on the listening to the podcast, don't forget we're live every Sunday around 2:00. Usually right at 2, but around it. But until then, check us out every day on punchdrunkcritics.com and have a great week.
All right, y'all. Later.
See ya. All right. Stream.